Hello, everybody. Today I will be talking to you about art and politics in a Latin America context, transformative social practice and praxis. And I started my research through these guiding questions. I know it's a lot, but I'll just go through it quickly. How has art been used as a transformative tools of resistance and change in the Latin American context? So I used these questions to start narrowing my research, and I got to how has social practice specifically been utilized as an artistic medium for resistance in Latin America. And these are my working statements, my working thesis statements, and I can come back to them after I go over the projects that I'm looking at. First, I'll read them through. Through their social projects, artists resist oppressive regimes in Latin America with a framework of transformative social praxis. Art has the capacity of transformative social praxis, an activity that reflects upon the world and seeks to change it, while simultaneously critically questions and reflects its own relationship to that world. And I was using the word praxis because I was thinking of the process that they use is different because I'm looking at projects that start in like 68 and move into 2000s. They challenge the process of art making itself. And the third statement I have is the three projects that I discuss use interdisciplinary methods to embody their objectives and critically intersect the public sphere. So the first project that I will talk about is Takuman Arte, which is it's a collaborative project of artists and non-artists that occurred in Argentina in 1968. So some context. Argentina is under the dictatorship of General Juan Carlos Onganía, and there's fierce state violence, censorship, and repression, the systematic dissolution of public life, and the closure and strict control of educational and cultural institutions. So this project really aimed to raise awareness of the conditions that were happening specifically in the sugar industry province of Tacuman, really trying to expose what was happening because there's this discourse of presumed economic progress. This project is very multi-layered. I'll try to go through it quickly. It began with collecting evidence. They went to Tacuman to photograph the conditions and take videos. There were interviews and lots of interviews with workers, union delegates, students, teachers. They collaborated with the local groups, and these activities did cause suspicion, and the police issued warnings to the public not to collaborate. And so the group coordinated two public talks, and the first was held at the Regional Museum of Fine Arts, and they took advantage of the cultural diffusion of these activities in order to conceal their political nature. And they also circulated false information to the press. And it was in the second talk on their last day in Tucumán that they revealed the denunciatory objective of their project and the results of the state policy: hunger and mass unemployment, impoverishment and repression and exploitation, and the concentration of land ownership by a few powerful landlords. Then they organized two shows, two exhibitions basically. And prior to that, they had like posters put up everywhere. And they basically like gave their visitors like overexposed to constantly bombarded with like endless information, They used they wrote a lot and published all this gathered information, and they were very much intended to criticize the official bourgeoisie culture for their aestheticization of art and the elitist detachment of artistic production. Okay, I should move on. So the second project is done in Chile, called Para no morir de hambre en el arte, and that loosely translates to so as not to die of hunger in art, and this is done in 1979, so about 10 years later. And the first stage was giving out 100 bags of milk in a neighborhood in Santiago, and on the same day they put a spread in Oi magazine, which prompted the reader to imagine the white pages milk and its countrywide private daily consumption as empty pages to fill. And these bags were also labeled a half liter of milk, which evokes there's a Salvador Allende campaign to secure half a liter of milk for every child per day. And they also had a exhibition where they installed a sealed acrylic box that contained 60 bags of milk, a copy of the Hoy issue, and a tape recording of their message. Oh yeah, so No es una aldea was emitted from speakers on the same day, and that basically says it is not a village. And so the context of Chile at this time, they were in the midst of the regime of Augusto Pinochet, who came to power through U.S. intervention, both through the economy and through military. And there became a wealthy elite, widespread poverty, much censorship and surveillance, tortures and disappearances. And so this collective, they they really cared that art must critically and self-reflectively engage with art's mechanism of production, reception, and diffusion. And this determines the act's resistance to be assimilated by the dominant culture and articulates its criticism of that culture and society. So this kind of thought relates, I think, to what I'm thinking for my thesis. And so the last project that I'm going to talk about is Project Venus, which happened around 2000, 2006 in Argentina. Context during this time, socio-economic crisis at the turn of the millennia. A time of unprecedented unemployment and massive impoverishment, overt corruption, and collapse of public institutions. And Project Venus is a social network and collaborative platform for artists and non-artists developed by the artist and sociologist Roberto Jacobi. So this website was received financial support by the Start Foundation, which helps when they try to fund projects through this site, where they had like an open ranking system, where projects were funded in order by vote until the funds were exhausted. There were 500 participants of mixed backgrounds and interests. So they had artists, lawyers, doctors, sociologists, architects, workers, musicians. There were 900 subscribers to its monthly news bulletin and more than 20,000 monthly visits to its website. And so you could offer a good or service for sale or donation. There's a system of relations of friendship and networks of skill exchange and mutual support, group collectives, and collaborative creations. It was really cool. And What else do I want to say? There's a quote by Jacobi. Project Venus is a world of desires created by means of exchange and cooperation. They also had their own money, Venus money. So I think in creating their own money, as real as arbitrary as official currency is, it harbors like the potential of expanding this activity into the real world, of regulating and defining real work. And I don't know. Also, I think this project conceptually engages with the value of cultural production in a capitalist society. And let me see. So I'm gonna quickly go over the commonalities because this kind of helps me think about my thesis. So all these projects go into the social sphere and seek to either bring awareness or improve conditions. They engage with the mediation of reality and the mass media. They're very questioning of like how mass media is propaganda and it creates reality instead of reflects reality. And furthermore, I think the last point is important. They reinsert art in social life and reject concepts such as the artistic genius and any privileged subjectivity, as well as the investment of an art object that is to be managed and enjoyed by an appropriately able elite. The first group specifically, they have writing that denounces the bourgeoisie intentions and artists as individual. And so, yeah, I think these theses could definitely use some clarity and be more specific, perhaps. But they were just my guiding questions, kind of. So yeah, I'd appreciate any help with the thesis statements. These are my resources. Thank you so much for listening, and bye.